Gay marriage in peril? What is going on with the Republican Party? Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America.
And you ain't black.
The first time ever any...
What are you people? We're Americans.
All right, guys, here we are. Middle America, Vinny and Sori, not left wing, we're not right wing, we're just right. He brought this to my attention. He said, hey, how do you feel about this? Yeah, it was Tasco. He said, how do you feel about this? And I'm like, So anyway, let's look at the Kyle Kulinski video, and then we'll talk about it. I will warn you, this is not a regular Vin Middle America, where I've do all this research and have stats and all the rest of it. I'm just gonna speak from my heart on this particular topic, and then react to what Kyle Kulinski's saying. So I will say, historically, the context is the shout out to the Robert Escobar Show. Like, share, comment, subscribe. The context of where we are is that one of the things that Donald Trump did, not only on the federal level as far as the Supreme Court, but Donald Trump installed a bunch of conservative, hyper-conservative circuit judges all over the country, and I will explain to you why that's going to be important for the purposes of this discussion. But the fact that Trump did that, on top of what we're about to talk about, is actually, I don't want to exaggerate, but like I said, a lot of this is happening to me in real time, but it just popped into my head how many circuit judges that Mr. Trump was able to install in the 4 years when he was our president, which, guys, when people say bring it back to the states, yada, 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 I'm fine with that to a degree, but the problem is you've got, like I said, a bunch of handpicked, hyper-conservative, older, and there is a generational gap between older conservatives and younger conservatives. I've been excised from the conservative community. They kicked me out, but that's not because I decided I was going to not be a conservative. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't say that, but they basically, because I don't support, I don't support pure capitalism, and I'm for Medicare for all. You guys know all the social issues that I'm in favor of. So even if I try to identify as a conservative, the conservatives won't have me. I don't think I've ever identified as a progressive. Quite frankly, I don't know what a progressive is at this point. The only, I've already talked to you guys what I think about progressives. I just think that, we're too young and we need 10 years and a couple of kids, and then we'll be able to be an actually effective party. Because right now it's a bunch of young, single white guys who don't know what the fuck they're doing. That's my opinion. Okay, so let's watch this Kyle Kulinski video. It's fresh. I haven't been able to vet it or vet any of the numbers. I'm just going to take what Kyle's numbers. If he puts out any numbers or stats, I'm just going to agree with it for now. If you think that he's saying something that's not true, or that one of the numbers are wrong or whatever, say it in the comment section. You guys know if something is like really egregious, I will shoot a video and say, hey, I was wrong here, here, and here. Joey Becker says your opinion is butt cheeks. That's kind of weird, but okay. All right, here we go. Here's Kyle Kulinski on this topic, and if I can get my thingamajiggy to start working, we should be good to go. But I initially had a kind of lackadaisical, attitude about this situation, and I think probably that is rooted in privilege. Although to some degree, the Loving decision, by the logic of Clarence Thomas, could also be up for debate. But I'll tell you guys right now, I don't really care about the Loving decision. I'm not worried about it in any way, shape, or form. From my vantage point as a Christian, the state doesn't validate or invalidate my marriage. That's between me and my wife and Allah. But I understand there are some civic issues. But anyway, let's just get into it, huh? Let's get into it, shall we? If I can get this video to work. Republicans split on same-sex marriage bill, which faces uncertainty in the Senate. By the way, guys, let me know if you guys are hearing me okay. Because you guys know I'm like notorious for having a mic issue. So let me know if you guys can hear me and if you're hearing me well. Something is wrong with my video player. For some reason, my Kyle Kalinske video is not working. Let me check my settings. Do you not receive legal benefits from marriage? Not really. And where we're at now, not to get into too much detail, it's not something that I would be worried about. But again, I'm saying that with the knowledge that I'm speaking from a position of some privilege. Not everybody's in the situation that we're in. So, just because I don't care about it doesn't mean that it's not important. You see what I'm saying? Relative to, if I'm talking about other things. But for some reason, this freaking thing is not cooperating with me. Let me see here. I'm on the Discuss tab. Go to the Play tab. Maybe the Play tab will do it. Of course, there's always got to be some technical difficulties when you're dealing with Vinny, huh? Audio is good according to the Robert Escobar show. Yeah, guy. This is the next culture war. They're already trying to blame gay people for monkeypox. Who is they? Somebody get me an article about that. What do you mean blame gay people for monkeypox? To be honest with you, I haven't really paid attention to the monkeypox thing. Is monkeypox something I really should pay attention to? I'm kind of burnt out on all of these, these kinds of issues. You know what I'm saying? Relative to, I gotta tell you guys, the COVID situation left a really, 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 really bad taste in my mouth. I gotta say, it really did. So, you're gonna have a hard time convincing me about this monkeypox stuff and all the things that people are saying we need to do in response to it, especially if you know who is involved. You know what I'm saying? All right, I gotta kill this thing real quick because I gotta figure out why it's not playing the video. Okay, so I'm gonna kill this and I'm gonna go back, okay? Because I don't know why the video isn't playing, and we got to watch the video because Kyle Kalinske, I think, is a pretty good resource. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of things that Kyle says per se, obviously, but I don't find him to be a guy that just lies and makes stuff up. You see what I'm saying? So right now, this thing is not even it's not even working. Hold on, give me a second. We're gonna have to restart this bitch, unfortunately, guys. All right, so I'm gonna kill this and restart it.
Sori.
It's not. There's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Some of the stuff that happened while I was Gonzies is...
Here we go. Okay, I think I solved the problem. I think I solved the problem. App downloaded from the internet. Are you sure you want to open it? No, I don't. That was the problem. You were screwing up my thing anyway. Okay. All right, so here we go. Republicans split on same-sex marriage bill, which faces uncertainty in the Senate, wondering why religious marriage isn't banned. I don't know what you mean by religious marriage. What does that mean? What is religious marriage? That's a serious question. I don't know what religious marriage is. But essentially, my position on gay marriage has always been, well, look, there's the civic side of marriage where the government says that America has a prevailing interest or benefit in people being married because marriage is a building block of a society. And so because of that, you want to incentivize marriage. And so that's a civic understanding of the government getting involved in marriage. And then, of course, there's the theological or spiritual side of marriage, which is people who are religious believe that God, as a Christian, that God brought you together and form a family because God is desiring godly offspring, as he says in Malachi 4. And that, to me, those are completely different things. To me, this is almost a separation of church and state issue, right? Like my marriage, I don't care if America validates or invalidates my marriage. My marriage is between me, myself, and my wife. The prevailing state benefits that come from there are other issues on the civic level where I would say the state does have a prevailing interest in allowing gay people to marry, which is when we're talking about adoption, for example. So it's obvious that the optimal situation for any child is mom, dad, kid, obviously. But we all know in the real world that that's not the case. And so married people provide a much more stable home environment for children than unmarried people. That's a fact. Okay, well then, if I have a bunch of kids that are in orphanages that are not accounted for, and I have a gay couple who has demonstrated that they're able to commit to themselves in marriage, they're going to provide a stable household. To me, it's a no-brainer. I want that kid in that family. So if I have a straight woman who's, no disrespect to women, but if there's a straight woman and she's by herself and she's makes minimum wage and she, lives in a bad neighborhood, let's say she lives in the Edenwald projects, but then there's a gay family, lives in a safe environment. They've got a net income of, I don't know, $200,000. I want the kid in that situation. I don't want the kid in situation A. No disrespect. To me, that's a no-brainer. So that's just one example of the state, in my mind, having a prevailing issue in invalidating same-sex marriage. That's just one example. I believe I could come up with others, but that's just one example where the state has a prevailing interest in that. Obviously, there's the emotional side, which is, for a lot of people, I guess it feels good to have your marriage validated by the state. I think there's an emotional component. I got to tell you, as a black person in America, I don't, all those things are not relevant to me as far as the state validating you and all the rest of that. Rich, Phil can't hear me either, so let me check here. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. Phil said he couldn't hear. Hopefully, if you guys refresh the page, you should be able to hear fine. Let me see here. Let me check on my side. It would not surprise me if it wasn't working on my side either. Let me see. Let me hit the play button. Okay, I can hear myself pretty good, so it'll be okay. All right, so let's look at Kyle Kalinske, and let's see what Kyle Kalinske has to say. Like I said, I think the state has a prevailing interest in gay marriage. It's not just, gays should be married because equal rights, blah, 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 because that's a slippery slope that nobody can hold consistently, and I'll explain that if people want to challenge that. What I'm saying is the state has a prevailing interest in gay people being recognized as having those unions, however you want to think about it. Let's go.
Out of this world. So let me go ahead and throw this one up. We'll jump into the first story here. Republicans split on same-sex marriage bill, which faces uncertainty in the Senate. GOP senators are torn between their culturally conservative base, which is resistant to the idea, and a large majority of the country that favors legal gay marriage. So the House, to their credit, did something that everybody's been saying they should do for a while now, which is as soon as this recent slate of terrible Supreme Court decisions came down, everybody said, well, hold on. If all these good ideas, like, interracial marriage, gay marriage, right to choose, etc., if all of that is going to be slapped down by...
Nope. Right to kill. And that's not a good idea. And the state doesn't have a prevailing interest in killing children. We continue, Kyle.
The Supreme Court. And they say, no, the Constitution doesn't give you this right. Well, then one of the ways around that is to codify that into law through Congress. So it would have to get through the House, the Senate, and then the president would have to sign those bills. So, look, Joe Biden, for all of his flaws, if a bill gets to his desk that codifies gay marriage, codifies right to choose, etc., he would sign that bill.
You see how Kyle will explicitly say gay marriage, but he won't say what the actual thing is, right to choose? Right to choose to do what, Kyle? I had one of these people on my show a couple weeks ago. They wouldn't answer the question. But I agree with him. I think it's a no-brainer that Biden would sign off on a gay marriage codification. And to be honest with you, I'm shocked. What was the number? 100. Tasco, what was the number? My buddy Tasco is the one that brought this to my attention. It's like 160 Republicans voted against it, guys. Like that's a lot of freaking people. Like I said, this is not a normal MA where I have all my stats and everything lined up. 195, it looks like. Holy shit. 195 people voted against it.
So the House got their rear in gear for maybe the first time ever, and they passed a couple bills. I'm going to do separate segments on both of these, but there was one on gay marriage. Should we make gay marriage legal apart from any constitutional issue? Should Congress codify gay marriage? And then the other one was right to contraception. So in the House, the gay marriage bill passed, but hold your horses, because I have some incredible numbers for you. So this article here in NBC News says, a bill to codify federal protections for same-sex marriage has passed the House, but Senate Republicans are agonizing over whether they should back it or allow it to pass. Wow. Well, block it or allow it to pass, with Democrats seeking to portray Republicans as belonging to a retrograde and primitive party that wants to strip away modern rights. Their decision could play a role in the midterm elections this fall. Some GOP strategists want the party to move past the issue by codifying protections.
Yeah, if you're, I always have the call in to disagree thing. If you are against gay marriage, please call. And I'm not going to, look, I'm not going to be hostile to you because, you guys know how I get down. I just want to know what the prevailing interest, how does it benefit the state to make, to reverse gay marriage? Like you've got a bunch of kids and families who are, whatever you think about gay people, like you've got whole hosts of kids and stuff that's all they know. That's been the norm. If the kid is sick in the hospital, that's your next of kin, etc., etc. What possible benefit is there to repealing something like that's been settled for 5 or 6 years, and so now you've got a bunch of people enculturated into this, and we've got that in the American system, and life hasn't changed at all. So what possible benefit could there be in reversing this? And it's a genuine question. Like I said, if you believe that this should be done, I'm an evangelical Christian, so I get it. I understand all. I'm talking on the civic level now, right? On the civic level, how does the state have a prevailing interest in doing this to these people? A genuine question. And so what I want to do is, I'm not really, I don't even want to debate you. I just want to know. Because to me, I thought this was over. It was settled. And I don't mean settled in the Roe versus Wade sense. I mean settled in the, hey, the Obergefell decision went through and the world didn't blow up. Nothing crazy happened. You went to work. You went home. You went to the baseball game. Nothing, like the fundamental structure of America hasn't changed at all. Look, the trans stuff with the bathroom and the prisons and Leah Thomas, completely get that. And that, as Glenn Greenwald said, you are absolutely looking for a complete overhaul of society. I understand those arguments. I don't understand the gay marriage thing, though. Because to me, I wouldn't even have known it got passed unless somebody sent me a text message. That's how little it affected our lives. But to the children of these people and to prospective adopted children, which we're going to have a lot more of now, right? Right? I mean, we're going to have a lot more kids who need to be adopted. And statistically speaking, people who are married have an advantage over people who are not married when they're getting, it's very easy to kill a child in America. It's a damn near Herculean effort to adopt a child. So I got a gay couple that's willing to go through all the bullshit necessary to adopt the child, and now we want to dissolve that union so that kid is thrown again into a confusing. How do we have how do we as Americans have a prevailing interest in that kind of? Help me understand. I'm not. I promise you, like, you guys know me when I want to argue and stuff. I don't. To me, I don't see any positive outcome for this in any way, shape, or form. To me, it feels like. Anyway, it doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter how I feel. We continue. Doesn't matter how I feel.
But that risks upsetting the cultural conservatives, which make up a significant portion of the party's base. Look at this. A Gallup poll released last month.
Okay, Matthew A., what you're saying isn't true, but I'm not really in the mood to argue right now, and I don't want to talk about abortion. I want to talk about this topic. But I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I just disagree, but I'm not going to argue it.
Found that most Americans, 71%, favor legal same-sex marriage. 71%. Now, guys, it wasn't that long ago. In my lifetime, that number was under 50%. But it's been a massive victory that equal rights over time has become more and more popular. And now, I mean, that's a stunningly high number. 71% say they're in favor of gay marriage. That means it's virtually everybody on the left.
71% seems to be a low number to me. I don't know anybody that. I mean, I don't really care about polls anyway. I mean, you had polls for the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump thing, and that was completely off. But I feel like it's higher than 71%. Sometimes in these votes, like, it depends on how you phrase the question, right? Like, so for example, if I put a vote on our ballot, and say, do you want to pass a bill that says that if a parent commits a crime, that the child, even if it's a minor, should have to pay for the crime of their parent? 99.99% of people would vote against that bill. But if I phrased the bill and said, do you believe in abortion in the case of rape or incest, a bunch of those same people who would vote no initially would vote yes. So my point is, those are both the same thing, right? So my point is, it depends on how things are phrased. I think if you were to say, do you believe that two gay people who love each other should be able to divest property one another, have kids, yada, yada, yada? I think most people would say yes. I don't know. Or maybe I've just been hanging around with you guys too long, and I just maybe I'm a victim of something that I usually criticize leftists of, which is you're around the internet too much and you don't know how people on the street are. Maybe there's 30% of the people on the street, 3 out of 10 people be like, no, man, fuck those people. Let those kids go and let them keep them in the orphanage. I don't know. I thought 70% was a low number, but again, this is not me being technical. This is me, just reacting.
Liberal, almost every moderate or independent, and even according to some polls, most conservatives. I'm not sure it's like that in every poll, but there are a lot of conservatives who now are okay with gay marriage. Quote, the issue puts Republicans in an awkward spot. I love this because now they're going to do like the politicking of this, as if that's at all relevant to the substantive and moral question at the heart of it. This issue puts Republicans in an...
That's fascinating. Moral question. On what basis, Kyle, are you talking to? See, this is why I said, like, the progressive movement, like, we just need to grow up, because on the one hand, they'll say we can't enforce morality, but on the other hand, he'll say, and I agree with him, that there's a moral question here. But the minute you bring it into the arena of morality, I don't know how that works as a progressive. See, progressives need to figure that out. Like, the right wing has got their morality figured out. Whether they're consistent with it or not is irrelevant. They have their moral paradigm. We, or progressives, don't have any moral paradigm. We're all over the place. We continue.
Awkward spot, said Jack Pitney, a professor of political science at Claremont McKenna College. Most Americans support same-sex marriage. Even a majority of self-identified Republicans support it. But evangelicals represent a huge share of GOP activists, and they still oppose it. More broadly, Republican activists dislike the idea of giving the Democrats a win, even on an issue.
Okay, so somebody said in the chat, they're doing this to own the libs. And I just have a really hard time with the idea that you would vote for legislations to literally fuck up people's lives. And you guys know I'm always going to be partial to kids. So I'm thinking about there's a couple that lives very close to us. They got the most beautiful, precocious daughter in the world. Should be on TV, honestly. If this girl started a YouTube channel, it'd be good. But they're two women, and let me close this door. Let me get somebody to close this door because my pro-life kids are making a bunch of noise. But I'm mind-boggled at the idea that we would literally go in there and slice up these people's families and other practical things like divestiture of property and things of that nature, wills, trust funds. All these things are kind of adjudicated through the line of marriage. At least it gets streamlined. I find it so hard to believe that a person would screw with all of that just to own the libs. I have a very hard time believing that, but that's in the article. Okay. Like I said, this is not a factual episode. This is just me reacting. Okay. You want to own the libs, so you're willing to do all this stuff to this marginalized group of people who've literally done nothing to you. Like I said, the shit that I've talked about on Libs of TikTok, that's a completely different thing. That's a completely separate thing. What I'm talking about is, Joe and Jack, they live in freaking Seattle, and they only want to be with you for the rest of their lives. That's a group of people I'm talking about. Those are people fighting for gay marriage, okay? I don't understand you destroying their lives because you just want to own the libs. You want to make the libs upset. I got to tell you this. I don't really see that attitude from the left. That sort of childish, don't be mad at me, right wingers, but this sort of childish, I drink conservative tears, all this nonsense. Like, I don't see that happening on the left. I think the left has a lot of significant problems, and I think they have a lot of ideological and structural and strategic issues, obviously, but I don't get that kind of an attitude, especially when you're playing around with, it's like, sometimes, like, in my imagination, I'm like, what are these UFOs? Maybe, maybe it's just kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, kids, like, screwing around with the ant farm. You know what I'm saying? And, like, you're taking something, like, that has, like, nuclear capabilities and, like, you're playing games with. That's, to me, it's like you're playing games with people's lives just to own the libs. And I just have a hard time believing that that's how people, that motivates people to vote. I don't get it.
Where there is consensus in the general public. Soak that in for a second. Giving Democrats a win by supporting equal rights for gay people. That's how that's framed. Republicans are like, or a bunch of them, and I'll get to the numbers in a second, are like, come on, we can't give them a win. Okay, how far would this...
Dude, you're nuts. It's possible. It's possible I'm nuts. It's possible. Leftists are all for putting innocent people in prison for political means. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And again, this isn't even, hopefully, this is not about putting gay people in prison. This is about invalidating marriages. It's about dissecting a cultural norm that we're starting to come around to. It's about the children of these people. That we're not talking about putting these people in prison. What I'm saying is people would be willing to completely destroy all of that just so that you could say you own the libs. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's because that's in this article. And what I'm saying is I don't see people on the left. I don't see people on the left doing that. I don't see people on the left saying, yeah, let's pass this legislation. Now I'm really going to own the Republicans. I don't see that happening. And honestly, all the circles I'm in right now, they're all left-wing circles. So I hear what they say when they're not in public, and it's not that. They definitely have an agenda, but owning Republicans and making them upset is not. I haven't heard that articulated.
Go. How far could this go? If you said interracial marriage, we're going to vote to codify interracial marriage because the Supreme Court ruled there's a right to interracial marriage. What if they roll that one back? So what if the House proposed a bill to legalize?
I'm in an interracial marriage and I don't care. But as I said earlier, before I had technical difficulties, I am not the norm. There are certain benefits and such that the state confers on you that it's not something that I am worried about. I'll say it that way. But Mr. Trump appointed a total of 226 district judges. He had 54 court appeals judges and 174 district court judges. Now listen, I'm going to show you guys a stat. I told you guys that I didn't I wasn't going to show you any numbers. I'm just going to speak here, but this is something that's important, okay? You see right here, it says this is a Pew Research thing. Trump appointed nearly as many federal appeals court judges as Obama in half the time. Obama had 8 years. He appointed 320 in total. Trump, you saw Bush. So if you just look at in the last, let's say, 3 administrations, 2 of which were Republican, George Bush had 8 years and he did 322. Obama had 8 years. He did 320. Trump's had 4 years. He did 226. So if Trump had the 8 years, he'd be at what? 451, 452, something like that. It would be the highest ever. And my point is, when you see a lot of these things going back to the states and things of that nature, when you go up, and I know this personally, you've got to deal with circuit judges and all the rest of it. And look, man, depending on who hired them, who gave them the job is gonna, I was doing a prep of my deposition with our lawyer, and they were explaining how this whole thing goes. So realistically, shit could get really, really ugly here for LGBT people. Again, I'm not worried as a about the interracial stuff either way. But I don't care. Daniel John, the January 6th stuff. If you're gonna use January 6th as the left being whatever, I'm sorry, you lost me, bro. I'm sorry. Because what happened in January 6th, and if you've ever seen any of my previous videos, I don't care about Trump. I don't care what he tweets. I don't care. I've said over and over again, I don't care. I think Biden was much worse for black people than Trump was. That's a fact. I can demonstrate that clearly. So I'm not one of these like Trump people. I never believed in the Trump-Russia conspiracy, but the shit that happened on January 6th is unforgivable. He should spend the rest of his life in prison. I don't even need the January 6th hearings. The fact that it took him an hour and a half to green light I think it was a Virginia guard to come in, to me is unconscionable and unrecoverable. And anybody that denies that shows that they're more loyal to a person than to their country. Because as I said, I'm only going to address this once in this entire discussion. As I said, if it was Barack Hussein Obama who was the leaving president, who was supposed to leave, and he got ousted by some white guy, and it was a bunch of Muslims who stormed the Capitol saying Allahu Akbar, and instead of the Trump flag and the Confederate flag, they were putting up the ISIS flag with the Shahada on it. None of you would have been saying that was okay. All of you would have been rightly calling Mr. Obama a traitor. So if you're going to use the January 6 hearings as a form of the liberals owning people, I'm sorry you lost me. Okay, that's the last time I'm going to address that on this particular thing. Let's get back to gay marriage. We continue.
Interracial marriage. what would happen? Would the Republicans say, I don't know, man, it's a controversial issue, and I don't want to give the Democrats a win? How far would they be willing to go? And look, the answer is a large chunk of the party, overwhelming majority of the party, in terms of the elected representatives, are like,
what is your daughter's name again, Michelle?
there is no bottom to this barrel. I'll go as evil and primitive and retrograde and pathetic as you can possibly imagine.
I agree. If you are willing to completely destroy people's families just so that you could see people reacting on TV, guys, there is evil in the world, right? Like, there really is evil in the world. If you believe in any form of good in the world, then you have to say that there is evil in the world. And evil, all of us are sinners, all of us make mistakes, but evil is a consistent aim only to hurt a person. So you got these doctors that try to kill these babies, and they're unsuccessful in killing the baby. So instead of giving the kid life-saving treatment after it exits the birth canal, they just leave it there to bleed to death. That's evil. You're an evil person if you support that. Conversely, if that baby survives and makes it and then is given up for an adoption, and then Steve and Frank decide that they want to adopt that child, give that child a loving home, give that child a last name, give that child an identity, get the kid a backpack and all that shit, sends the kid off to school. Steve attends baseball practice after 12 hours of work. Husband shows up. Instead of taking takeout, they're on a budget, so he's out there cooking and all the rest of it. They're doing regular family shit. If you swoop in there and try to destroy all of that just so that you can see people cry just so you can see Jenk or Anna cry on TV, you're absolutely evil, bro. That is evil. If that's not evil, then evil doesn't mean anything. You got lots of people in LGBT situations that are in that situation. Even the fact that these people have to worry about this shit right now is unconscionable. To me, that's unforgivable, man. You can't do that to those people just because you want to see people. What? I can't believe that.
For now, Democrats have locked down nearly half the Republican votes needed to break a 60-vote filibuster. So half of the Republican votes needed to break a 60-vote filibuster. So what does that mean? They have like 5 Republicans in the Senate? Is that it?
Okay, I got to pause for something really important. Hello, Miss Shannon O'Rourke Johansson. You beautiful thing. Thank you so much. You've been a very big blessing in our lives and in the lives of mom and dad. If you are 20% as beautiful as your mother and 30% as intelligent and insightful, you'll probably be the president of our country. So much love to you, beautiful. We continue.
Or no. To break the filibuster, I think that's a higher number, right? I think it's a little higher. So maybe they have more than 5. Don't quote me on that. I don't know why I'm blanking on what you need to break the filibuster. With many GOP senators dismissing the bill as unnecessary, and accusing Democrats of trying to weaponize an issue they say is settled. It's still unclear if the legislation will draw enough Republicans.
The Democrats are trying to weaponize. Okay, so you didn't vote to codify gay marriage and protect all these families, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about protecting families. You didn't vote for that because the Democrats were going to weaponize it. You know the easiest way to take that weapon out of their hands is codifying it so that they can't use it to say that you and your party are evil, homophobic, soulless people with very little conscience. The way to take that weapon out of their hand is to codify it and say, of course we're going to codify it. What the hell is wrong with you? It's not to not vote for it and leave it in the hands of your enemy, supposedly. Now, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that you didn't vote for it because you didn't want to give the Democrats a weapon.
To become law. Okay. Well, hold on now. Democrats didn't bring this up. It was Clarence Thomas who brought it up specifically in his decision when it came to...
He did. He brought up a Obergefell, but he didn't bring up the Loving case. The Loving case was interracial marriage. He brought up all these other cases, but the situation that he's in, he conveniently left out. And by the way, he was the only one that went that far. Kavanaugh explicitly stated against what he said, etc., etc., etc. Mr. Thomas, you could tell he just genuinely doesn't like those folks. He don't like gay people. All the bullshit black people have been through in this country. You see, people don't realize why I'm so crazy about abortion. People think it's my religion. I'm not holy enough for my religion to be such a major motivation. It's because all these discussions about the humanity of children happened to my folks. And it's the same reason I'm advocating for LGBT people. I don't like that our country has groups of people that we're constantly dehumanizing and that we're constantly marginalizing. I don't like that. And that is why I am the way that I am relative to the abortion question. But this shit right here, Clarence Thomas, shame on you, bro. You're old enough to know all the bullshit that we went through. And now you got another group of people, and now you're in a position of power, and you're going to go out of your way to provide all this anxiety to a group of people who've done nothing to you in a horrible economy, in a world where everything is crazy. Now these people have to worry about whether or not the kid gets to keep the last name and all the other shit, and then the kid's got to worry about they go to class, and then the some horrible kid says, you know, your mommy and daddy, they're not really married, and we're about to take away all that shit, blah 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 blah. You're gonna put a group of people through that when you know what that's like. Even the fact that they have to worry about it, to me, is unconscionable. That's my opinion. Again, I'm reacting from emotion here. I'm not reacting from a lot of data. I'm not reacting from a lot of facts. But I got a real issue with that. I got a real issue with that, man.
Roe versus Wade. He said, hey, Obergefell next, dog. Put it up on the chopping block. They didn't decide this one right. Ted Cruz did a podcast recently. And in it, he said, Obergefell, which is the right to gay marriage, he says that Supreme Court decision was incorrect. And we need to throw that out. So this argument that, like, but why are the Democrats talking about this? It's nonsense. The Democrats are reacting to the right, going further and further to the right, and trying to take away something as basic as...
Again, I'm not sure that this is a right-wing issue. Because, again, Clarence Thomas brought that up, but nobody else did in that decision. I'm not sure that this is a right-wing. I hear what you're saying, though.
Gay marriage. More. Same-sex marriage remains legal, but the issue was reignited last month after the conservative-leaning court ended the right to abortion by overturning Roe v. Wade. In that decision, Justice Clarence Thomas, this is what I just referenced, a conservative icon, called on the court to also reconsider nationwide rights to gay marriage and contraception. The Respect for Marriage Act won 47 GOP votes in the House, including from self-described ultra-MAGA representative Elise Stefanik of New York and other conservative members. But 157 Republicans voted no. 157. Indicating the enduring power of a conservative base that feels threatened by the pace of cultural change.
Yeah, but if they voted no to some trans bill, that makes sense. But the cultural change has already happened. Like, they've been married, and they were getting married before the Obergefell decision, and the public sentiment had changed, I'd say, even a decade ago. I still can't get my mind around this stuff. And when I say it, I'm not saying like, oh, they're so evil, I'm so good, I can't understand them. What I'm saying is, like, what is the strategy? Because Republicans are brilliant strategists. What is the strategy, and what is the win, and what harm, what significant harm? Like I said, I hate to pick on, but look, the trans stuff, I get it. You know, girls are losing scholarship, women are getting raped in prison. Like, I get it, but what is harmed? Where is the actual harm to the country by people getting married? I see a lot of benefits. I'm looking for the harm. I really am. That's why I said, if you disagree with me and you say no, gay people being married does harm our country, and The state does not have a positive prevailing interest in gay people getting married. Please call in. It's toll free. There it is right there. I'm not even trying to argue with you. I just want to understand. That's all. I just want to understand. Okay, we continue.
Only 47 Republicans agreed to equal rights. 157 said, I am against gay marriage. If I could, I would press a button and eliminate gay marriage in this country, which, I don't know, would that be retroactive? Are all the people who are gay married now? It's like, poof, you're no longer married anymore. And there are real life impacts of this. So, there's all these, when you're married, that comes with a whole bunch of tax advantages and social security rights and inheritance rights and, the ability to see them in their last moments if they're in the hospital and things of that nature. 157 Republicans said, no, I'm not for that. I'm against that. That's astonishing. Because look, everybody had this impression that that's a battle. It's been fought. It's been won. It's over. We're moving on now. And over time, virtually everybody in society is going to agree. Maybe at the very end, there's a holdout of 15% or something, some tiny number that doesn't agree. No, it turns out that the bigotry, and I do think it's fair to call this bigotry if you're against gay marriage, is just latent. It's barely underneath the surface. The second that they see an opportunity, it pops right back up. The thing that's astonishing about this is go talk to your average person on the street. This is not a controversial issue. This is a settled issue to your average Joe and Jane, whatever their political affiliation may be. The only people who remain to say, I'm against this, it is fueled by evangelical Christianity, a fundamentalist strain of it that poisons the mind and makes you so socially conservative that you lose all grasp of common sense and basic fairness and justice.
Yeah, I mean, look, the leftists are bigots when it comes to evangelical Christians, especially people who call themselves progressive leftists. As an evangelical Christian, it's almost the same as being the only black guy in a room in Maine. I mean, it's obvious. However, I gotta believe that's gotta be the driving impetus. I just don't believe that the own the libs thing is really. I feel like it's an older generation that, and I'm not gonna say that the last vestiges of Jerry Falwell, moral majority type evangelicalism. Yeah, to me that seems to be the ground zero of this whole situation. I just don't think that there's enough political energy to own the libs to do this to wreck families. I do think of it as it's got to be the evangelicals. And my answer to that is obvious, right? They brought the coin to Jesus and they said, hey, Jesus, should we keep paying taxes or not? And the reason for that question was, if Jesus says, yes, you should pay taxes, then they could say, well, then you're not the Messiah, because the Messiah is supposed to help us overthrow the Roman government. And here you are telling us to support the military that's been crucifying our cousins and our brothers all over the place. If Jesus said, no, fuck Rome, don't pay those taxes, then they would have went right to Pontius Pilate and said, hey, this guy's telling us not, and then they were going to crucify him. So Jesus' response, brilliant as always, he said, well, whose image is on the coin? And they said, Caesar. And so Jesus said, well, then give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. Brilliant answer. Why? Answer, because the coin has Caesar's image on it. So that's Caesar's realm. So give to Caesar whatever is in his realm. But you are in the image of God. So you give your person, your entire being to God. Don't worry about the taxes. God will take care of the Roman military in time. Don't worry about that. You just worry about devoting yourself to God. So when I look at the context of the gay marriage situation, I say, listen, if you're asking me, does God recognize a man and a woman? Of course not. Not from a biblical perspective. No. But if you're asking me, the state has taken the idea of marriage and said, hey, we have a prevailing interest of marriage working, I would say, yes, that's within Caesar's realm, and it makes a bunch of sense. Technically speaking, look, heterosexual marriage doesn't fare very well either outside of Christ in the New Testament. Read 1 Corinthians 7, where he talks about he talks to the believing woman, and the believing woman has an unbelieving husband, and Paul says, well, your unbelieving husband is sanctified by you. And then he says, otherwise your children would be unclean, but as it is, they are clean. Which means, if two unbelievers get together, they're najis, according to what my Muslim friends say. So my point is, if you wanted to carry this out to its logical conclusion, you would also have to say that no marriage should happen on the civic level except for evangelical Christians being married. That's the logical ramification. No. I think it's wise to just say, the civic area of marriage is Caesar's domain, and then what happens in the church and how it gets recognized by God is between you and Allah. Those are two separate issues, and never the two shall meet. And then God will decide between the two of us which one is right. So the Christians kept paying taxes to Caesar, and then God went and destroyed the Roman Empire. So let him call that play. That's not for us to go out there and do that to those people. Joe to Go says, I thought I have one thought I have as Christians: how much concern should we have about non-Christians and their lifestyle? Are we overstepping? Is their reaction to the fact warranted? Exactly. That was kind of the point of what I said. Like, the marriage question is in the realm of Caesar. It is not in the realm of you and God. That's not the same thing. That's why I'm completely pro gay marriage, but I'm against forcing people to make the gay cake. Because now you're asking these people to compromise their own personal convictions, okay? So let them get married. Don't force them to make the cake, okay? That's my position. All right, we continue.
That's an astonishing 157 Republicans voted no. 157. That's as extreme as it gets, man. It really is. And look, there's a debate about why exactly are they doing it. Are they true Kool-Aid drinking fundamentalists, all 157, or are they just appeasing the very active and activist grassroots on the right that are...
But what if God judges our country for abortion, acceptance of gay marriage? That affects all of us. You know what else? I agree it would affect all of us. But you know what's interesting is that there are no examples of God destroying a city or a nation because of gay marriage. Not once. People say, oh, Sodom and Gomorrah. No, Sodom and Gomorrah, we were told why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because they were fat. That means that they were overfed and they didn't care for the poor and the needy. Okay? And the instance of homosexual activity in Sodom and Gomorrah was not two women who loved each other and wanted to get married. No. The sexual perversion in Sodom and Gomorrah was an attempted gang rape. And I don't care if you're gay, straight, poly, whatever. If you participate in gang rape, yeah, God's gonna fuck up your city, bro, for sure. Here is what the scripture says. This explains why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And I'm not mad at you. I just want to educate everybody. Okay, you can look it up. Ezekiel chapter 16, 49 and 50. This was the guilt of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters had pride, excess of food, prosperous ease, but did not aid the poor and the needy. They were haughty. So you had a bunch of people who were arrogant, prideful, were horrible to the sojourner, didn't care for the sojourner. As a matter of fact, was attempted to sexually abuse sojourners. And we have talked about when we put those kids in cages over there in the Trump administration, there have been numerous reports of not only sexual assault, but also forced sterilization, hysterectomies, etc. So I agree with you. I'm very worried that God's going to judge our countries. We're horrible to babies. We're also horrible to the sojourner. The problem is that all the people that were horrible to the sojourner, to those immigrant kids and their mothers, raping them, etc., Those were all on the right-wing side. I didn't see any of my left-wing friends poking holes in water bottles that people set up at the border so these people didn't die of thirst. No. That was our team doing that shit. So yes, I agree. I'm very worried about God's judgment of this country. I very much am worried about God's judgment of the country. Aside from the fact that we outsource our slave labor to children in China right now. Very worried about it. I don't believe, though, that two gay people who love each other, want to start a family, and adopt a kid in a bad situation is going to elicit the anger and the judgment of God before the socioeconomic conditions that have been created by evangelicals that make this place a hellscape, that push a lot of these girls into the abortion clinic in the first fucking place. We continue.
Fundamentalist Christian. And I don't know the answer to that. All I know is, at the end of the day, they vote the wrong way, and so it deserves to be massively condemned. In the sense.
Well, I agree. But now, Kyle, you're making a moral declaration about the way people vote. And when the abortion question comes up, you've always said, hey, you can't enforce your morality on the people. But now with this one, you want to enforce your morality on the people, which obviously every law is an imposition on morality on unwilling people. That's why you have laws, and those laws have to be backed up by fines and imprisonment. It's because people aren't willing to follow it. So every law is simply the codification of a moral stance onto the populace. So all of us can just dispense with this silly idea that we're not forcing people to adopt a morality. Absolutely I am. I absolutely want to enforce this kind of morality onto America. Yeah. Two dudes want to get married and adopt a kid that would be in an otherwise horrible situation. We should absolutely support that, and we should enforce that on the country. Absolutely. We continue.
The bill is co-sponsored by Republicans Susan Collins of Maine, a centrist, and Rob Portman of Ohio, who is retiring and has supported same-sex marriage since 2013 after his son told him he was gay. Senator Tom Tillis, a North Carolina Republican.
Right. It's got to be someone you love. You can't just say, man, as a human being, this is how I feel. It's got to be somebody in your family. Now, all of a sudden, I can't stand that shit, but hey, it is what it is. It's strange you blame Trump for that when Obama built the case and what was happening before Trump got elected. Tony, I just had this conversation with my friends. I'm very well aware that it was Obama and Biden that built the cages. I'm no fan of Obama or Biden. The difference is that the Obama people, the people that voted for Obama, were not prancing around the country saying that they were the moral conscience of the country. They weren't saying that. It was evangelical Trump voters that were saying that God was restoring America and all the rest of it. And it was us. You remember when Ellen came out? And Jerry Falwell got on the news and he called her Ellen degenerate to her face. You remember that? We're the ones that are doing that. We're the ones that are prancing around saying we're the moral majority. We're the ones that are prancing around saying all this shit. But now when we get confronted for our participation and I'm saying because even though I spoke against it, I'm an evangelical Christian and I believe in collective guilt. When we're acting like sodomites to those kids at the border, now we want to point at Obama. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing that. Obama didn't run as no God candidate, and none of Obama's people were saying we're going to restore God's conscience to the world. We were saying that when we did that to those kids. We're the ones that are calling these people sodomites. We don't even know what the fuck a sodomite is, Tony. I'm not mad at you. I'm just saying we're the ones that are doing that. So now when we get confronted with how we've been inconsistent with the most vulnerable people in our society and we have not protected them and we have not advocated for them, now we want to go, well, look at Obama. No, we're not doing that, bro. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Evangelicals were calling Obama the Antichrist and all this other shit. I had in my church, we had a church email thing and evangelicals were talking about, the birther nonsense and all the rest of that. You can't just flip the script now and say, well, we're just as bad as them. Nah, bro. Nah. We're the moral conscience of America. You know what St. Paul said? He said if we would have judged ourselves, we wouldn't be judged along with the world. So I'm judging ourselves here. We're inconsistent on this topic.
would vote for the bill, his office told NBC News, and Senator Ron Johnson, a Wisconsin Republican who faces a challenging re-election race, reluctantly said he'd vote for the bill. Even though I feel the Respect for Marriage Act is unnecessary, should it come before the Senate, I see no reason to oppose it, he said. Senator Lisa Murkowski...
How is it unnecessary? We had a 50-year... And look, man, we had a 50-year thing with Roe v. Wade, okay? And a couple, we fought long and hard to get there. Of course it's necessary to codify this. What do you mean? All we need is one of these people to get into a bad car accident, and in 2024, and Ron DeSantis, you can have a seventh. I mean, it doesn't even matter. This is a 6-4 majority now. John Roberts, who's supposedly the centrist guy, even he voted against Roe v. Wade in the final analysis. So what are you talking about? All right, Joshua Scott said, I'd rather have a child raised in a loving gay home than be raised in church and the SBC dealing with the rampant spousal abuse and sexual misconduct. Also true. Also true. And evangelicals, we love to get a pass with the sexual stuff and say, oh, that's the Catholic Church. No, it was the SB-fucking-C. Biggest denomination in America. We're doing that shit to kids and sending these people around because they were making you so much money. We did that. Meanwhile, we're pointing the finger at these gay people. I have complex thoughts on abortion. I feel it's wrong by God, but leaving my faith outside of being pro-choice. Is there instances in the scripture of abortions? I'm aware of scripture. Before you reformed, I knew you. Joe to go. Well, look, when God would Samaria, for example, God said he's going to judge Samaria, and one of the main reasons that he was going to judge Samaria is because they ripped open pregnant women, which was a very crude and horrible practice of abortion in the ancient world, as a way of extending your property, etc., etc. The value of human life is not a personal moral thing, but we'll talk about that later because I want to focus on this LGBT issue real quick. We continue.
Alaska Republican said she's still reviewing the Respect for Marriage Act, but noted that she supports same-sex marriage. But other Republicans like Senator Ted Cruz and John Cornyn, both of Texas, have sharply criticized the Supreme Court's decision that legalized same-sex marriage nationwide in the landmark Obergefell versus Hodges ruling in 2015. Cruz's office emphasized that he wasn't predicting it would be overturned. Senator Marco Rubio, Florida Republican, who also faces...
And I appreciate you, Tony. I appreciate you, for real. And look, I wasn't mad at you, per se. I'm just mad at the situation. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the meanness, just meanness for no reason just gets to me. I'm not going to lie. I've seen a lot of shit in my life, but...
election this fall will vote against the bill, a Rubio spokesperson said, adding that he believes it is unnecessary. There are other priorities, and this is an issue that he's always believed should be handled by the states. See, now it's
handled by the states when Mr. Trump has pretty much in half the time of Obama almost equaled him in appointments. You see how this works? It's like, oh, we need to go back to the states. Oh, by the way, we've installed all these judges from Trump. And by the way, Trump installed some of the most... Anyway, we continue.
It's very good that the Democrats brought this up for a number of reasons. It's very good that they did this. Because it gets the Republicans on the record and shows how out of lockstep they are with mainstream America. This is as extremist as it gets. And they don't have the dodge anymore, man, of like, well, it's not that I'm against gay marriage. I'm just against that the Supreme Court legalized it and said there's a constitutional right to it because obviously there's no constitutional right to it. That's the typical dodge. Of like, I'm not saying anything about what my position is on gay marriage. All I'm saying is it's not in the Constitution, and you need to acknowledge those facts. That's the standard Republican dodge. But now they're calling their bluff. And the Democrats are saying, okay, well, then let's have a vote on it, and you can support gay marriage apart from any questions of constitutionality.
Right.
You can just say, yeah, gay marriage should be legal, and then move on.
Correct.
And then they're balking. A lot of them are balking. Again, 157 Republicans in the House voted no on gay marriage at this late date when everybody thought, hey, we've sort of settled the gay rights issue, we've moved on, and now the big discussion is trans rights. And that is in a place where, gay marriage was, I don't know, maybe back circa the year 2000 or 19.
I don't think so. I think the trans issue is a completely different question, my guy. It's a completely different question. Completely different issue. Gay people got married. There is absolutely no difference at all in anybody's life. I'm sorry, but like I said, Maine was at the cutting edge of a lot of this shit. I was a manager one time, and a bunch of girls who'd been sexually assaulted were in the bathroom. They looked up, and there's a biological male with a 5 o'clock shadow. He's got a dress on, so he was allowed to get in there. That's a completely separate issue. If I were to ask somebody, well, how does giving trans people rights affect your life? They'll be able to give examples. Girls have lost scholarship. Women have been sexually assaulted in prisons. There's the trans woman who impregnated two other. That's a completely separate topic. And I'm telling you, if you trans people do not get really smart and strategic, the LGBT community is gonna flip on you. I was just talking to somebody last night. They've got a whole coalition. I don't know if I'm going to bring them on the show or not, but I'm telling you, they're sizing up to flip on y'all. But I've been spitting into the wind on that particular topic, and nobody's going to listen to me. You'll see. You'll see. We continue.
95 or something like that. That's what everybody thought. Turns out, no. There is no moving forward for some segment of the population. Now, again, I will say, some polls show your average Republican is way more reasonable than your average elected Republican. But that also says something about the extent to which elected Republicans, the fringe has taken over. And this is something Chomsky pointed out going all the way back to the Tea Party wave. It's like, it's not really a political party anymore. It's a ragtag group of extremist misfits who have taken over the party establishment. And they'll roll that clock back as much as they possibly can. Whatever they can get away with, they're going to do. And it's not representative of a majority. It's not even representative of a majority of the average Joe voters in their own party. So, look, this should be highlighted because it is absolutely egregious. It's absolutely egregious.
That's why I did the show. That's why I did the show. And to this moment, I still don't understand the I don't understand the mental mapping that gets us to this. And I don't know if this is Republicans trying to feel out their base. You know what I'm saying? Like saying, okay, let's vote against it. And then if our group, because there's not going to be any political penalty for a Republican for voting against gay marriage. There's no penalty for Republicans to do that, right? So if I'm a smart politician, I'm gonna say, okay, the zeitgeist is becoming more and more hostile to LGBT people. So let me just vote for this, see what the reaction is among our constituents. And then if there's like this overwhelming, we need a push for gay marriage, then fine, I'll amend my vote. We'll do something else. But to me, this just looks like they're playing safe and then testing to see how their constituents are going to react to it. Because like I said, there's no penalty on the right-wing side. Even if you agree with gay marriage, right-wing voters are not going to punish their senators for voting against it. That's just not that's not how Republican voters think. So the only explanation I can come is them saying, hey, the zeitgeist is getting a little bit more hostile to gay people, so let me vote this way, see how people react. And one of two things. I can either say, okay, I wasn't taking into account the progress we've made, and then reverse it. Or I could say, if there's like overwhelming support for it, then I can say I stood my ground, blah, 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 blah. That's the only thing I can come up with because this other shit doesn't make any sense to me at all. Shout out to Danny Logan in the house. We continue.
Any sort of tepid support or outright support for these politicians, people should know what they're signing on to.
Yeah.
They're signing on to throwing out gay marriage. 157 of them in the House. And we'll see how many they end up getting in the Senate. And by the way, even if you do say, oh, this is a waste of time, it's already a settled issue. Okay, then vote yes and move on. That's it.
Right.
Dunsies. We're done.
If it's a settled issue, then vote for it. But you can't use the term settled issue when a month ago everybody was saying that Roe v. Wade was a settled issue. So you literally cannot use that phraseology in any meaningful way to absolve yourself in this discussion. And I'm saying this is a person who celebrated like mad when the Roe decision came out.
Long. But no, they're saying, oh, it's a settled issue, so now I'm going to vote no, or I'm going to yelp about how it's a settled issue.
It makes absolutely no sense.
It was a settled issue until Clarence Thomas said, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. We should revisit that one. So again, how far will it go? I truly do wonder if a bill to codify interracial marriage came up, how many Republicans would vote against it? Sincere question. We had 157 vote against gay marriage. How many would vote against interracial marriage? 70? 80? The fringe has taken over in terms of the elected officials, and that's very clear. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm.
Yeah.
Click the bell as well.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the motivation is to do that. I only see negative ramifications for doing this to these people. And for the most part, I mean, you're talking about Dave Rubin, right? Dave Rubin is the, gay dude having a kid with whoever, and I understand. I get it. Shapiro as a, religious, he said, no, I couldn't go to your marriage or whatever. And I understand people, hurt feelings and all the rest of it. That's fine. But if you wouldn't go to his marriage, that's cool. I understand. But what benefit is there on a civic level to say that he couldn't in the first place? And I just see a major benefit to society. And, with two men or two women committing themselves to each other for life to create a stable home environment. Obviously, everybody knows the financial benefits of marriage, especially in a LGBT context. You're less likely to be on state aid and all these other things. So there's so many prevailing interests that benefit our society by gay people getting married. And there is no downside on the civic level for conference of those rights and privileges. I don't see how the state doesn't have a prevailing interest in that. Right? Whereas like for example, like if I wanted to advocate for incestuous marriage, I can see a lot of negative ramifications at the state level as to why the state would have a prevailing interest against incestuous marriage, right? One would be the obvious genetic issues if it's a heterosexual coupling. Another issue would be even if it's a homosexual coupling, that could promote interfamily, pedophilia under the guise of marriage, etc. And so the state has a prevailing interest to not do that because the risks and the negative ramifications, in my view, outweigh the benefit. You can't say that about gay marriage. You can't. I see only benefits and no drawbacks to gay marriage. So to me, that's the civic argument. That's the argument. The argument is there's only benefits to society and there are no downsides. Conversely, there are serious downsides to dissolving those things psychologically, sociologically, particularly as it relates to children. Children have to have, like I said, mom, dad, kid is the optimal situation. But there are thousands of kids in the foster system, etc., that do not have that structure. And so there is a positive prevailing interest in the state for gay folks to fill that gap and fill that void, which they have done, and they've demonstrated that over and over again, in a way that has benefited the child and by extension society. There's no societal benefit to dissolving that. There's no societal benefit to doing that, especially if you could just step into the mind of a child for a little bit. Your birth parents, for whatever reason, didn't want you. That's not why people end up in the foster system, but that's how a lot of them feel. They didn't want you. Then this couple decides that they do want you. They give you an identity. They give you a name. And then in comes the state and says, nope, you're not really part of a family either. The whole thing was pretend, it's bullshit. You don't really belong, blah, 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 blah. Okay. What benefit is there to society to do that? Not only to that child, and everybody knows I'm going to default to the child, but what about those two people? That's important to think about. People, oh, that's emotionalism. I know it's emotionalism. But as I've said, emotions are important because sometimes our minds have been corrupted. So sometimes our emotions are important. Yes, that's an emotional scenario, but is it a fallacious scenario? No, it's a real scenario. It could really happen. So I know it's an emotional scenario, but that's not the question. The question is it true? And the other question is, do we want to be the kind of people that do that to those people? We want it directly to come from us? And like I said, I am never ever going to separate myself. I'm never going to separate myself from my evangelical roots or whatever. So I'm always going to say we, us. It doesn't matter if I hold a separate view. I'm the representative of evangelicalism here. I have the minority view. This is a majority view. And I don't understand the logic here. The only logic I can see is absolutely you're driven by your religion to go after these people. But Jesus says, learn what the scripture means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. If you would have understood the scripture, you would not have condemned the innocent. That's what Jesus said. To me, this is a holy shit. Republicans called Dave Rubin a child trafficker for having kids through Allahu Akbar. I mean, actually, Isaac, didn't Rome approve of gay homosexual relationships and then de-evolve to bathhouses where the nobles slept with children? Isn't that where pedophilia came from? No, Isaac. Thank you. Actually, there was an actual satire made against gay people who wanted to be married. The Roman government allowed for people to engage in homosexual activity. Most of the time, it was looked upon as excess, not as an orientation, but as an excess. There was some understanding of orientation at the time, but a lot of it was just looked upon as just you had an excessive sexual appetite. But there was not Alexamenos. I forgot the name of the Roman playwright where they did a play and they were mocking the idea that two men could be married or two women could be married. So what's her face of Lesbos basically had to go to an island and marry her wife because the marriage level on the Roman government was not recognized. So this is a common trope that happens. Is the Roman government allowed for gay marriage and then it went to pedophilia and bad. No, pederastry had nothing to do with homosexuality in the sense that only homosexuals were practicing pederastry. That's not true. Pederastry was a thing, and again, it was looked upon, homosexual sex was looked upon as excess in the Roman government. So this is the thing that they try to do. They try to say, these gays are all pedophiles, and if we let these gay people get married and then they adopt these kids, all these instances of pedophilia, what kids are most vulnerable for pedophilia is kids without parents, like in the foster system. Go talk to kids in the foster system. The kids in the foster system are in way more danger of suffering from pedophilia from their own kids as well as the counselors versus LGBT people. So This is a common trope that gets thrown around against gay people, and I understand asking the question, but we have to be very careful about how we talk about marginalized people who don't have power and who will always be a minority. We have to make sure that we're not spreading information that could get people fucking killed. So if you want to make a parallel between Roman society and American society, that's fine, but you better make sure you have all your fucking ducks in a row. So we can't do that. We can't say, oh, well, Rome is allowed for gay marriage, blah, blah, blah. No, they did not. They did not allow for gay marriage. They mocked it, etc. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. Look, and again, you guys are asking the questions like I need to back up and control my emotions on this issue. But you guys know how I am with facts. You know how I am with facts, and I come from a group of people who all my life I heard about all these facts about my people that were just false. But the entire, so I'm not going to do that to another group of people. I don't care if it's preborn children, LGBT people. I'm not doing that. I'm not going. We cannot participate in these extremely dangerous. Now look, I'm not one of these people, words or violence or whatever. I'm a black man in America. I've heard everything in the book. As long as you're not trying to touch me or touch my kids, I don't give a damn. So I'm not saying we shouldn't say these things because words themselves are violent. What I'm saying is these ideas, if believed and carried out to their logical extension, do end in violence many times for marginalized people. So we have to be very, very careful about how we communicate. That's my issue. That's my problem. Okay. So look, that's where we are. I appreciate Kyle's perspective on, trying to, raising awareness on the issue. I still don't understand. I still don't understand exactly. The only thing I can come up with is the evangelical side and politicians basically trying to test the wind to see how their base are going to react. I just have a hard time thinking that we'd be willing to destroy all these people's lives just so we can, quote, own the libs. That shit is crazy to me. And Mr. Trump's, the radical appointments that Mr. Trump made are going to come into play now in clear relief. And so I think, look, I think it needed to be addressed. Like I said, I'm a little bit more emotional on this particular topic. I didn't have all my research here and all the rest of it because, like I said, Tasco had just brought it to me. I'm going to sign off now and spend some time with my family. If you're a praying person, you got to pray for this country, bro. And we got to pray for evangelicalism to take a real look in the face at itself in this country, because I fear that we've strayed away from I think we're lacking in mercy to people. And when you're not part of the marginalized group, when you're not part of the marginalized group, it's so easy to act like you know what they're going through and all the rest of it. I don't know what LGBT people are going through in this country. Even married LGBT people, I have no fucking clue what that's like. So I'm not going to tell them how they should feel, etc., etc. All I'm saying is the very fact that two people who put themselves out there to adopt a child, like I said, we're pretty close to the whole adoption discussion for obvious reasons. It is fucking him. They've stacked the deck against adoption because they, I'm sure the big Big Planned Parenthood loves that fact, how hard it is to adopt. But if a gay person will put themselves through the rigmarole to do that, that tells me already something about their character. And that tells me already that they're in the top 1% of humanity relative to that, if you care about children. So you're going to take some of the best people in the world and do that to them. I mean, I hope you understand this. When you come from a marginalized community, it is really, really easy to get self-focused and bitter and angry and do all types of horrible shit and justify yourself because you're part of a marginalized group of people. You're telling me I got two people who've been through that shit from the beginning, even rejected by their own families. And instead of allowing that to turn them into really bitter, ugly, nasty people, they then say, you know what? Let's do for a child something that wasn't done for us. And they go through all that rigmarole to fucking get that child in there, provide them an identity, a purpose, and all the rest of it. And now you want to sweep in the name of God and destroy that? These are the best people we have in this country. People who adopt other people's children are the best people on the planet. They are. And we're going to tell those people that you're the reason God's judgment's going to fall on us. Get the fuck out of here, bro. I got a hard time with that. I have a very hard time with that. LGBT people, I could tell you as a fellow marginalized individual, never let yourself get embittered by these people. Don't let yourself get embittered. Don't get angry. Keep doing the shit that you were doing. Keep doing the shit that you guys are doing. Keep blessing people. Do your best. As far as you and God goes, hey, you tell Jesus you're going to follow him to the best of your ability, and he'll make up the difference, inshallah. Because if that's not true, I have zero fucking hope. You understand that? Some of you guys have known me for a long time. I'm not a very good person. So if God doesn't grade on a curve because of what Jesus did for us on the cross, then I'm fucked and so are you. So is everybody. But I'm not going to support taking the best people that we have, the best people that we have in this country. I am not going to support anything that harms the best people we have in this country. I'm not doing that. And neither should you. All right. I love you all. I really do. I really do. And, you know, I think I think we've lost our way. And I think, inshallah, we can do some real deep thinking before, as Christ said, we condemn the innocent. All right. Much love to everybody. Love your neighbor.